Marketing is a podcast for business owners and leaders, produced by my dad, Steve Davis, and his colleague at Talked About Marketing, David Olney, in which they explore marketing through the lens of their own 4 Ps: person, principles, problems, and perspicacity. Yes, you heard that correctly. Apart from their love of words, they really love helping people. So they hope this podcast will become a trusted companion on your journey in business.
David, I want to give you 2 options.
Uh-oh.
Would you rather plan out a presentation with me following the format of a TED Talk? Or would you prefer to have a candlelit dinner together?
We could combine the 2, because you'll enjoy the candles, I'll enjoy the dinner, and we'll get work done.
Now, that took me by surprise. I'll choose the restaurant, and you drive me home.
This could get really exciting. Remember, you meant to bark 3 times when I meant to hit the brakes.
Our 4 Ps. Number 1, person. The aim of life is self-development, to realise one's nature perfectly. That is what each of us is here for. Oscar Wilde.
In the person segment, I think it would be impossible not to mention that the world is feeling pretty rickety for many households and businesses at the moment. As we watch interest rates fluctuate, people start getting nervous, tightening things up, supply chains making costs of things higher. It's a bit hairy. I don't think that's over-egging the omelette there at all. David, you want to argue, on the basis of some work by Edward Chancellor, that there is a silver lining to these rough storm clouds.
Yeah, I'm going to try and make that argument, but it's not a comfortable argument. It's a bit like talking about Richard Koch and the 80-20 rule. Some, bitter pills are a bit bitter. So Edward Chancellor has written a book called The Price of Time. And it's all about, having to pay interest on loans and earning interest when you loan money. And what's the history of this and what's the implications? And of course, historically, there have been a lot of religious restrictions on charging interest or earning interest. The world got over that in different ways at different times. But what's very interesting is that, particularly in the latter part of the book, when he talks about, the post sort of world of 1719, where we really got to modern economics and a modern understanding of how money works, more and more states have tried to keep their economies stable. And this trend only increased from the beginning of the 20th century. Like really after the little recession compared to 1929, in 1921, most central banks and governments went, we need stability. How can we have growth without stability? Now, unfortunately, what Edward Chancellor's research has shown is that the more we try and maintain stability in economies, that we try and have a predictable future, the sicker an economy we create. That it's actually in economies where when things are big and fail, we let them crash, we accept the chaos. We know that things are going to be destroyed. It's actually out of economics that we originally get the idea of creative destruction. That really what makes capitalism work is that when something is inefficient, it can't compete, it goes bankrupt, its resources go to someone else who has a better idea, a better process, better trained people, better morale, and a better product. But that the more, particularly since 1929, we've tried to create as much stability as possible, what it has meant now is when we have economic crises, that they are much bigger and more destructive, and yet we don't fix things after. So if we look back to 1987, which a lot of our listeners might remember as the first economic crisis in their lives they can remember, we didn't fix anything. We look at the Asian crash, we didn't fix anything. The global financial crisis, we bailed out the big banks, interest rates stayed low, and we limped our way to COVID, and now we're limping our way through inflation caused by disruption from COVID and low interest rates, that have now become high interest rates and high inflation. The point of this for small business, because interesting books are interesting books, but constantly when we talk to people in small business, we ask, why did you decide to open your own business? What makes you passionate about turning up every day? And we get the same answer. I love this. I'm good at this. I believe I can do a better job, provide a better product. And yet, when we're 15, 20 minutes into the conversation with people in small business, we hear, oh golly, it's such a struggle. It never really stops being a struggle. We're kind of always on the edge of doing really well. But then we're always on the edge of it could go sideways and go wrong. And it's always baffled me. How is it we can be in this strange situation where things are almost really good, but also we're really scared that it could get really bad very quickly? And it was so interesting reading Chancellor's book and seeing that actually this strange situation where it's not really good and there's always a risk of it getting really bad, but we just kind of have an overarching economic environment that tends towards forcing us to limp along. This is a deliberate consequence of policy decisions. And I think what I want small business people to take away from this is you are good at what you do and you are bringing something to the market. And by doing it well, it should get significantly easier than it is. But because of the overarching policy settings that we've now basically had for a century, we don't get the creative destruction necessary to free resources up from mediocre companies, particularly mediocre large companies. And as a consequence of this, we have to try and do better in an environment that ties one hand behind our back. So don't give up on being good at it, but also don't take responsibility for the playing field being distorted by poorly constructed goodwill.
And this was brought to a head in the interview recently on the Adelaide Show podcast with 3 winemakers, including Emmanuel from Flinders Run, who's our client who got them together, because these are family-run, passionate wineries, and the big neutral ghost companies which are limping along on autopilot because they've got the penetration everywhere, they've got the dumbed down prices
and the dumbed down product,
a stressed consumer who's watching their pennies and doesn't understand the ramifications of choosing this conglomerate over feeding money into, for just literally $3 or $4 more.
It could make such a difference.
Yes, this is exactly the situation we're in. So the challenge is for us to just keep on working how to help communicate that important empowerment we have that helps us, even as we help other smaller businesses. We have to pull ourselves out of it. There is no other way. We've got the big macro settings are there.
We just have to work around it.
And so what you're saying, the whole sum up of this particular person segment, we like them to normally be a positive shot on the arm. This one, it sort of is because it's eyes wide open, but it's saying it is hard. It is hard, and there are reasons for it being hard, but that's not necessarily the reason to give up. And if everything does go to hell in a handbasket, that is like the bushfire ripping through our native flora here, which then hopefully can spark something new from the roots and shoots.
We got to remember how many trees in Australia, their seeds can't start to grow without fire.
Still not a comfortable thought.
But better than feeling it's your fault.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. We want people to go, no, you're playing on a playing field we didn't make. That's not your fault.
But you can open that box of matches.
Yep. And work with other people to have an awesome barbecue in the middle of the forest.
Our 4 Ps. Number 2, principles. You can never be overdressed or overeducated. Oscar Wilde.
David, when you're home by yourself and you're, no one else is around and you're looking at a few videos, when your reader says to you there's a TED Talks video, do you get excited?
I used to get really excited, but like so many great things, my excitement has gone down a little bit because of the sheer quantity of good material. So more often than not, its impact is, it's a TED Talk. It will give me a nice positive spin on something. How do we fix something? How do we make something better? So it's more I look forward to it as like a glass of nice, fresh, cool water to make the day better.
So it's going to reliably quench the thirst. It may not necessarily be the signature cocktail that you remember for all time, but they can be. And they were a lot more of that back in the early days. But I guess is it quantity? Is it churning them through?
Yeah.
So, the TED Talk itself has a formula. It's 18 minutes long, which means you do need to use one of my favourite sayings that I've picked up along the way, murder your darlings, because most of us, when we start putting ideas together for a presentation, come up with way too much and either rush through it to meet a timeline or just go on and on and on. But I don't do that, David, do I?
You don't tend to do that.
Ooh, that's a weasel word. Tend.
You love words, which means you like to add words because you love them. Those words normally have meaning, but 11 words with similar meaning is not much more meaningful than 3 words with similar meaning.
Anyway, TED Talk, they still have a great formula, even though because of the quantity being rushed through, some of it might be diluted these days. And David, you suggested I get the book TED Talks, the official TED Guide to Public Speaking, written by Chris Anderson, who's the head of TED. TED Head.
While you've said something that's a bit rude, just to jump in, the significance is that even if they've become a bit ordinary in our lives, what is extraordinary is you can make this many talks that are all watchable, all vaguely interesting, and all generally entertaining, and all where at the end of it you know why the person talked to you and what they need you to do.
Yep.
That's powerful.
It is. And you said I should get it. And Belle, one of our lovely clients, Belle, because even if we never deliver a talk to a public forum, the rigour, the process of putting one together with the discipline of the 18-minute hard timeline means you up your game. You get things focused. And I think that's absolutely right. I have read the book from cover to cover. I've distilled it into the notes of what I think is a more accessible process. And I want to share some of those things with you today and get your input as well, David. The first thing, and I think this is the fundamental thing in the whole concept of writing a TED Talk, is coming up with the core idea that it's all about, which is referred to as the through line. So movies have a through line of what particular journey a character is going on. For us, what is the one core idea that we want to leave with people? And that's not as easy as it seems, David.
No, because very often you think you need to explain 10 things before you can get to that through line, where in reality, if you can say the through line right at the beginning of what you're talking about and then restate it right at the end, then people go, continuity. And our brains love continuity. So give people what they need.
Yeah, they love continuity as the other side of the coin of hating something left undone. They want to rush to close that gap. And so what you will hear if you are ever working with me or David on putting your TED Talk together is the very first job is going to be spending some time thinking through what is this through line all about. Chris mentions right at the beginning of the book a particular TED Talk that does this really well. It's a talk called Why We Laugh, back from 2015. Cognitive neuroscientist Sophie Scott talks about some surprising facts about laughter and what laughter really is, and in evolutionary terms, how it evolved. Let's have a listen.
For example, I can remember now something very much like this happening at my father's funeral. I had a relative who was being a bit difficult. My mum was not in a good place. And I can remember finding myself, just before the whole thing started, telling this story about something that happened in a 1970s sitcom And even at the time I thought, I don't know why I'm doing this. And all I realised I was doing was I was coming up with something from somewhere I could use to make her laugh together with me. It was a very basic reaction to try, for some reason, we can do this. We can laugh together. We're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. And in fact, all of us are doing this all the time. You do it so often, you don't even notice it. Everybody underestimates how often they laugh. And you're doing something, when you laugh with people, that's actually letting you access a really ancient evolutionary system that mammals have evolved to make and maintain social bonds, and clearly to regulate emotions, to make ourselves feel better. It's not something specific to humans. It's a really ancient behaviour which really helps us regulate how we feel and makes us feel better. In other words, when it comes to laughter, you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. Thank you.
And I love it. I love the fact that Chris Anderson says to this day he will still laugh in a group, whatever, and then he has this flashback of that note that Sophie just shared to go, that's the evolutionary purpose of that laugh. And he says, that to me says she got her through line right.
Yep. We all remember, hang on, it just worked again. Dolt, how did I learn that?
Now, some of these notes you'll see in the show notes for this episode, but I just whip through them quickly. David, you pull me up if you want to go deeper on any of these. Another factor for putting a TED Talk together that's strong is looking at the open. We want to open strongly and close powerfully. And to open up, sometimes it could be a surprising statement, a sort of bold, unexpected fact. It could even be an anecdote. People love a story. An intriguing question is a nice way to set something up, or a compelling image is another way to grab people's attention. David, I'm guessing the last one doesn't really enthuse you all that much.
No, but if the person then describes the significance of the photo.
Yes.
So the classic example of that one I remember was a TED Talk done by a supermodel, where she comes out on stage essentially looking like the high school librarian with her hair up and the loose jumper and the long skirt and her glasses on, and then starts the story of, well, you think I look like a normal person who gives a TED Talk. And she then describes, why she's chosen those clothes. And it's all about the importance of perception. And by the end of it, she's in an evening gown, no glasses, her hair's down, and the whole perception of her has changed. But she articulates what she's doing and why, as she literally gets rid of the layer of clothes and her glasses and pulls the hairpins out. So it's not that a visual can't work, but a visual with a good description can be even more powerful.
Yes, because it's inclusive of everyone, but also, yes.
You're getting the thinking.
Yeah, there's another one. Closing options, some of the ones he talks about include a camera pullback, is when you zoom out to show the broader implication of what your talk is all about. A call to action, what is the next step that our listener could do? A personal commitment, asking people to take a moment right now to pledge that they're going to be on this mission. Stating some visions and values can work. Tying back your narrative to an early key moment, which is what you were talking about before, David, where, we've gone full loop. Fantastic.
But it needs to be clear, like you can't be the only one that sees the link.
Yes.
Other people have to recognise it when you're testing your TED Talk.
And then he said one to be used with care is called lyrical inspiration. That's when you conclude with something that's poetic or an emotionally charged statement. He said they can be really strong, but not everybody's gifted enough to do that.
Yeah, don't do rhyming just for the sake of it.
The second of the internal aspects of a TED Talk is we do need to have narrative structure to the talk. Everything needs to be in a place. And he talks about the tree. If you imagine a tree, a strong trunk with branches, that is the map for your story. So you've got the strong trunk in the ground and you start going up. And then there's one branch off. Take that to the end, come back. So it's always sewn into the trunk. You know you're going somewhere, and your audience has a vision of the progress you're making, but also how things fit together. Another part is engage emotionally. He talks about weaving emotional elements throughout your talk. So it can be humour, it can be some personal stories, relatable experiences. And I think this works well when you're not so much the butt of the joke, but you've learned something the hard way. It helps make you human and relatable and someone we like.
Yeah, laugh at yourself. Don't find someone in the audience to laugh at. There's no faster way to lose everyone than to pick someone out of the audience and basically make them the joke.
Another part is to simplify and focus the content. So the big argument that gets made a number of times, focus on a few key points clearly, powerfully, use some examples and some explanations, and just cut stuff out. In fact, at the time of recording last night, the Professor Longsword, had a speech he was delivering, and it hurt, but I cut a huge slap out before it was delivered. It wasn't the A-grade material, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to get rid of it. Less is more. And that was particularly strong in my head because I had been sitting through a number of presentations earlier in the week by people from the corporate world, and
where more is less.
Well, yeah, they really did seem to lack the empathy for the audience, the situational awareness of what it's like to be on the receiving end of them just plodding through a laundry list of bullet points. The final bit is reflect and revise. So continually refine your talk, go back, do some rehearsals, be open to making adjustments. The big tip he said, David, is once you've got it, see if you can find someone who's not related to your business or enterprise and deliver it to them and get them to be honest with you. Where were they lost? Where did they lose the thread? Good advice?
Absolutely. When I started my PhD, the person running the seminar to get us ready to work on our topic said, okay, in the next month you need to get to the point where you could explain what you're working on to a taxi driver in rush hour traffic, and they can follow you and keep being interested while driving.
That's a good idea. Does it work for Uber drivers too?
They more often than not have their AirPods in.
Oh,
and they're just bopping to the doof.
Bopping to the doof. Now there's a talk title. I hope to have that hit from you in about a month. Talk. Was it? What did you say? Bopping to the
doof.
Bopping
to the AirPods. All you hear is the doof, 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 doof.
All right.
And you hope they don't steal like they're bopping.
That is like a quick run-through of the core elements of a TED Talk, which you can hopefully go back, listen to, have a look at the show notes, and plod your way through. In the back of my mind, apart from working with clients one-on-one, I'm getting an idea, David, of maybe having every now and then sort of like a weekend or a Saturday afternoon workshop or something.
TED Camp.
TED Camp, yes.
You get it wrong, we throw you in the poison ivy.
But we better not call it TED Camp because that might be
Talk Camp.
Yes, or what about bopping to the doof camp? Who would sign up to go for an afternoon of bopping to the doof with Steve and David?
Uber drivers.
Our 4 Ps. Number 3, problems. I asked the question for the best reason possible. Simple curiosity. Oscar Wilde.
We have something in the problem bag to talk about in this episode to a degree. We got an email. You got it actually, David.
I did. And I forwarded it because I'm only a moderately responsible human.
What was I'm just looking up the subject line. It said, this is the subject line of the email that David received courtesy of Talked About Marketing. Great article about ChatGPT marketing team, ! I guess that grabs your attention because...
Well, compliment's better than trying to sell us drugs.
Yeah, flattery gets you everywhere.
Well, somewhere.
And so we're going to read this to you. It's not that long. And the question is, what would you do? So, hello, marketing team. Now, straight away, I instantly know this was not seen at all by a human.
No.
Not one human has touched this. Their spider bot has found an article on our website that uses the term ChatGPT, and it has automatically crafted a generic email. They haven't even bothered to look at the About page to find out who we are. And so it starts, hello marketing team. So big black mark to start with. I hope you're doing well.
Dun dun.
In sincerity, if you don't even know my name, you just don't care. Next paragraph. I've just read your incredibly insightful article. Now, interestingly here, there is no space. It goes straight to the quotes. A marketer's Christmas message written with ChatGPT, end quotes.
So they couldn't even get the AI to format it properly.
Right. And then it prints out the URL in full, which again, this is the result of a bot. I mean, a human would have just referenced the title. It's our website. We should know where it is. I bet that's there for their convenience. If there's any mug who gets back in touch with them, they just have to click
on their own link
and go and look for it for the first time and work out how they're going to justify the connection. I might be showing my hand in the way I'm reading this. This was meant to be neutral, David. This invaluable resource is a treasure trove for enthusiasts looking to enhance their understanding of the ChatGPT platform. Well, to a degree it was, but that generic sentence would have applied to any ChatGPT blog post they automated. If you don't mind, I'd like to propose a potential enhancement to your content. Now, this would require that you've actually read it. I'm neutral at this point, although my suspicion is you haven't. And they say, TopTow has recently launched a dedicated resource on how to use ChatGPT for project management. You can find it here with the link. Now, nothing in the article, which was my comedic play with ChatGPT to write a Christmas message, had anything that would suggest that it would be, in quotes, enhanced by a link to a chatbot talking about project management. We need that sound effect again, David.
Dun dun.
This is just so blind, rubbishy, typical PR crap that is generated out in the world these days.
If they wanted to win, they could have made 2 or 3 modifications by this point where we would have kept reading and at least gone, wow, at least they worked to get our meaningful attention rather than just turn this into something that we immediately decided to put in a podcast.
Next sentence. Would you be willing to add this link to your current post so that your readers could benefit from this additional content?
Dun dun. Of course not, you twits.
Should you be open to this collaboration, we'd be delighted to share your post across our team members' social media profiles, reaching over 10,000 relevant followers. My internal team here at TopTow would also enjoy it. Now, if it's so good, why haven't you shared it with them already?
And then said, you know, we've shared this already, we liked it so much, how could we possibly work together?
Correct. Finally, additionally, we can provide access to our meticulously curated list of 200 plus high direct response sites, along with email contacts, offering valuable opportunities for content dissemination and link building. Well, if this is how they go about link building, I'm not sure how meticulously curated that list is, so cue the sound effect.
Dun dun.
So sorry, Juan.
Your time is up.
Yeah, it was
fun not knowing you.
It was one evolutionary step in starting with a bit of flattery, because a lot of these companies start with, I've seen everything wrong. So
they were smarter.
Yeah.
It was a better version of bad.
But it's no dice,
No.
I'm afraid.
So if you get an email similar to this one, send it to us and we will use it in a segment to save other people for wondering what they should do. Because what you should do is have a laugh and suggest to them that they should get a better marketing team.
Our 4 Ps. Number 4. Perspicacity. The one duty we owe to history is to rewrite it. Oscar Wilde.
David, at the beginning of this show, I did reference taking you out to a candlelit dinner. That's because we want to talk about dating ads and in the perspicacity segment. So just in case you wondered where that was going, it was on script.
Well, he was on script. I took it off script because I thought it would be fun to stop him dead, and it worked.
Dating sites have been around for a while. According to our research, the first online dating site was a company called Match.com. There have been so many others since then. In fact, let's have a listen Let's go back about 15 years, listening to one of the commercials that Match.com made, because it brings up the main rationale of how they worked. I think it's an American ad, but it would have been the same message everywhere.
I joined Match because
I'm a single dad.
I'm new to the area.
Just tired of the bar scene.
It's hard to meet someone when you're always working.
I want to try something new.
Match.com. More dates, more relationships, and more marriages than any other site.
I thought, why not?
Start for free today.
So already what was being captured here is people saying how they're tired of going to the same old places, doing the same old thing. And yet they end up doing the same old thing just in a different way on these sites, don't they?
That's kind of the irony of being a human being.
It is, because those things that are tedious
Are what you have to do.
Yeah, so going out for drinks or seeing movies or doing those sorts of things, I think the difference is, if I reflect on our journey together with this podcast, is that they can actually be mind-numbingly soul-destroying activities, or you can apply some of the insights of, say, Charles Duhigg's book, Super Communicators, and make, if not all, many of these interactions count and go deeper. Now that is the messiness of humans trying to connect with each other. And you were quite shocked recently hearing the
founder of Bumble.
Yeah, Bumble. So, David, are you on Bumble?
I am not on Bumble because I am a happily married guy, but I have enough sort of former students who are on Bumble, and I'm like, wow, a dating app that doesn't sound like it's utterly awful.
So what makes Bumble different?
As I understand it, Bumble is the app where girls get to decide who they want to talk to, and they have to reach out to guys.
Oh, I thought that was just called Life.
Well, you can say that if you'd like. You're sitting far away from the door. Nadia probably can't hear. Everything's probably okay.
So that's it. And then Whitney Wolfe Herd, who is the founder and executive chair, you heard her say this. Let's have a listen to her revelation.
There is a world where your dating concierge could go and date for you with other dating concierge. No, truly. And then you don't have to talk to 600 people. It will go scan all of San Francisco for you and say, these are the 3 people you really ought to meet. We will not be a dating app in a few years. Dating will be a component, but we will be a true human connection platform. This is where you will meet anyone that you want to meet. A hiking buddy, a mahjong buddy, whatever you're looking for. But our focus with AI is to help create more healthy and equitable relationships.
When I first heard this, my first thought was, wow, we're going to outsource being human.
If we haven't already.
Well, we've nearly outsourced it, but actually saying that my date bot is going to go out with someone else's date bot to decide if we should go out on a date when we actually don't know how to talk to anyone but our date bot, who is a compliant piece of code, who is designed to ensure that we feel happy and comfortable and spend time in this company's app. OMG. We're giving up on being human here, listener. It's kind of scary. I don't doubt that the AI is clever, but the human things are the difficult things. And they're also the remarkable things. And we have to get through the difficult stuff to get to the remarkable stuff. It's all a bit of a worry that the way forward is to be less human and interact less. When what we talk about constantly is, hey, we're going to go into a world where every phone call you make to a business, it's going to be talking to an AI initially before you go to speak to a human. How much nicer is it going to be in life to talk to people sometimes and to not know what they're going to say and to not know what mood they're going to be in and to be surprised when someone laughs or smiles or engages? And wouldn't you like to practice your human skills as much as possible so that you can get positive responses from people and have a better day? Wouldn't this be great for your relationships, your work, and your life generally?
We're putting the perspicacity lens on this for a couple of reasons. Listen to those early dating ads that we just played. Now we're looking at AI doing all that heavy lifting for you. And so we have to ask ourselves, can anything like those early ads work ever again. Because I guess it depends on once people taste this approach, if it's successful and works, they won't look back. But my gut feel from what you've said, David, is we're going to do it because, we don't have to worry about dealing with people. But then they're not going to be equipped for the relationships they get in with.
Yeah.
And it's just messy. It's sad.
I think the implication is here going
Yes.
forward in small business. Our customers are going to be less experienced at interacting with people, and our potential staff are going to be less experienced of dealing with people until we all realise that we miss dealing with people.
And then the opening will be there for the company that can bring back dealing with people.
In a really nice human way.
Yeah.
So be ready for that and have your skills ready and help your people be ready, because humans are social creatures. We can play with technology like this for a while to try and hide from the discomfort of being human. But at the end of the day, we revel in being human.
We do. And on that note, we don't have any candles, David.
Will you light up your desk?
Grab those matches we talked about earlier. Let's do that.
What is that supposed to mean?
Nothing. It's just that all men are sure it never happened to them, and most women at one time or another have done it, so you do the math.
You don't think that I can tell a difference?
No.
Get out of here.
Oh. Ooh.
Are you okay?
Oh. Oh, God. Ooh. Oh, God. Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh, yeah, right there. Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh. Yes. 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 Oh. Oh.
I'll have what she's having.
Thank you for listening to Talking About Marketing. If you enjoyed it, please leave a rating or a review in your favourite podcast app. And if you found it helpful, please share it with others. Steve and David always welcome your comments and questions, so send them to podcast@talkedaboutmarketing.com. And finally, the last word to Oscar Wilde. There's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about.